Hey, what is up everybody? This is Rob and it's time for a fun video. So this video we're going to do is it's actually one that I've been thinking about doing for a while. So here's the thing. You're a new driver, maybe you're 18, 16 years old, whatever, and you want to get your first car. Now, there are already a lot of videos on YouTube that talk about, what is the best first car, I should say the best first car for you at whatever price range. I'm not too big on those videos because to me, price ranges on cars, they do vary quite a bit depending on where you live. Cars that here in California will cost $5,000. They might only be $2 or $3,000 in another state. So instead, I want to talk about what is the best first car in terms of what you should look out for in your first car and things to consider before jumping into your first car because you don't want to end up making a bad decision that will have some future consequences, which we will talk about later. So for this video, let's talk about the best kind of cars to look for your first car and what to consider. All right, guys, so cars in your image. So here's the thing, guys, don't worry about trying to look like you have money with the car you have. This is your first car. You're probably like 18 years old. All right. When you see people with expensive cars, we need to get rid of this mentality that means that they're probably doing well at life because a good amount of times it's not. Okay. A lot of times you'll see people with these like 50, $60,000 cars, and then you find out like, holy crap, they're barely making the payments on that, but it's so important for them to look cool. Guys, stay within your means. All right. When you're buying a used car, don't try to find some used, European car or something else that's, high maintenance just because you want to look like, you're doing so well at it. You will be doing so well one day. Forget about that. I knew so many people I graduated with when I was 18, and guess what? They bought the used, BMWs and Mercedes, and within a year or two, they had sold them for like a Camry or a Corolla because they couldn't really afford it. And they realized it wasn't important to try to look like they had all this money. All right. And if you want to buy a brand new car, just please be sensible about it. Okay, you want to buy like a base model Civic or something? Fine, go ahead and do that. That's a car that will last you years and years. It'll keep the resale value, and hopefully, you already have some plans on keeping some sort of employment. So talking about maintenance, it's also important to remember that some cars will be costing a lot more to maintain, especially if you're not too mechanically inclined. A used Mercedes, I know I keep going back to this, but this was the main car I always saw people buying when we were 18. Like used Mercedes, certain parts are going to cost a lot more than if you bought them on like a Honda or Toyota. And then you got to look at the labor too, especially if you're going to take the car, especially if you try to take it to dealerships. Even if you take it to separate garages, oftentimes with these European cars, you might want to take it to a garage that, special in European cars, which does mean will be higher labor costs. Which again, if you're not too mechanically inclined, those labor costs are going to eat you up quite a bit also. You will see frequent times when the part might be $200 or $300 and the labor will be $500 or $600 because due to this European innovation, they have to take apart all this stuff just to get to the problem. Before buying a car, I do also recommend looking up frequent issues cars may have. Maybe do a couple Google searches, go on the forums, the Facebook groups, even the Reddit threads, see if there are any common problems that the car may have. So for example, my first car, my 1987 Supra, I didn't know till after that. Apparently, if I would have gone on the forums, I would have realized that they have a big issue where the head gaskets like to blow up on them between 70 to 100,000 miles. And guess what? I sold my Supra with 80,000 miles and I found out that at about 87,000 miles, the head gasket did blow up on the next owner. I had dodged a bullet on that one, but if I didn't sell it, I wouldn't have. Then I would have been stuck having to replace the motor because back then you were actually cheaper to get a new engine than, replacing and fixing the head gasket issue. I highly am against buying someone else's project. The thing is, you don't know what things they had essentially band-aided up just to try to make the car look a bit more presentable to you. And you don't know what other little quirks there are that they aren't telling you about, all right? When you guys look at cars, you want to be a little bit cynical. For example, when I got my 67 Camaro, everything looked straight. Took it home. What do you know? The wiring was completely crappy. You know, half the I remember the fuse box was rusted out. Parts of the wiring were just basically lazily electrical taped together. They were using a wrong gauging of wires for different things. If I remember correctly, there were four sets of wires for four different alarm systems that had been installed on the car that were all going nowhere. Like it was a mess, and this is just one of the things that can happen. Thankfully, this was an easy fix when you buy someone else's project. You also want to think about the other expenses, you know, insurance, gas, and then we'll talk again about the payments later. So consider, first off, call your local insurance and just see, how much will it cost for insurance? If they might say like, oh, well, we need the VIN or whatever, guys, just go on any website that's selling the car you want and just take the VIN number and give that to them. Just make sure that this is also insurance that you can justify, paying for. You guys are young, your insurance is going to be a lot. If it's especially if it's a performance oriented car, then that's going to eat up a pretty decent chunk of your paycheck. And don't forget about gas also. You know, it some cars are very thirsty. I'm not gonna lie. Even my Tacoma is pretty thirsty. It gets about like 18 miles per gallon. And when I was driving it weekly, at one point I was spending about 70, $80 a week on gas. Now, luckily, I have a good career, so it's not really that bad for me. But but if when I think about when I was 18 and I was making 8.25 an hour, that would have sucked to have paid any insurance. You did everything, all right? You considered what is the car in my means? Is the maintenance good? Can I afford the maintenance? Is the insurance good? Insurance is good. Gas won't be too bad. Payments, maybe yes, maybe no. But now the final step is to look at the car. So you found that perfect car on Craigslist or wherever. You're going over to it. I do recommend, especially if you're not mechanically inclined. I mean, you're 18 years old. The reality is you probably haven't seen a lot yet, unless you've had some different circumstances, which is awesome, but you might not have. But bring a mechanic oriented friend if you can. Or honestly, just someone sensible, someone with an eye for detail. You will want other people to look at the car with you because they will be able to point out things that you might not see. The more eyes, the better with this kind of thing. All right? Especially because, let's face it, you're going to be excited to look at this vehicle. Your friend might not be. So they're going to be looking at it with not with rose tinted glasses, but as someone who might have that bit of cynicism you want. All right? When you test drive the car, right? Make sure to have the radio off. They're going to try to say, oh, listen, the radio sounds good. No, leave it off. Leave the radio off. Then you can hear for anything wrong, any creaks or suspension, any signs of stress from the engine, anything like that. You want to hear as much as you can. So please listen to that. But most importantly, guys, don't get married to it. I get it, all right? You're excited. It's your first car. You probably already spent the past week online looking at parts for this car because this is going to be the perfect car. No. When you are married to the car, you will accept the car for all of its flaws. Don't accept it for all of its flaws, you guys, all right? This is this is that point where you're so excited that if something does seem wrong, maybe you do hear some creaks and the driver will say, "Oh yeah, that just started a few months ago. I don't think that's a problem." You might be so excited and say, "Oh, okay, that's cool. Whatever. I like this car." Guys, if something is wrong and something doesn't feel right, you're under no obligation to buy it. Just because the seller showed you the car, that doesn't mean or you're under any obligation to buy it from him. The seller's just trying to make money off of you. Remember that. He's not there again to be your friend. He's like a salesperson. He's not there to be your friend. He's there to sell his product. You don't owe him your money for his product. You are checking out his product to determine if you want to give him cash for the product, all right? Don't get married to it. If anything seems off, anything, please feel free, guys. Don't feel pressured to, go ahead and buy it. I recently saw a really nice 1971 Mach 1. I loved the car. I took a mechanic over. Turned out the car was a dud. I still liked the car, but I knew that this was going to be a problem. So I said no. The guy even knocked $10,000 off his asking price. I still said no because I knew that this was going to be a headache. You can't get too attached to them. It's not your car yet. All right. You ever notice that when you go to especially I love when I see this at the car dealerships, when you're negotiating for the car, sometimes they'll put the keys to the car on the table with you. They're trying to make you feel like it's already your car, so then you'll say whatever. So then when they add those purchase plans, the warranty plans, the BS paint protection, all those other, the $100 key fob protection, when they want you to feel like it's already your car, so you'll have an easier time saying yes to all those things I want to add to your bill. Don't get married to it. Have cynicism. But let's say everything does go well. Everything checks out. Well, go ahead and make your offer. I'm not going to tell you guys how to, make offers on cars. I I always do. Even if they say to affirm, I'll still pray around. You never know unless you ask, right? I really want to put out this video because, again, I just wanted to help people out who are looking for their best first car. And I just wanted to give them some things to really consider and think about. Of course, I probably left some things out. I don't want to make this an hour long video. Please, put in the comments things you think I should mention. Maybe I can do a part two. Anything you think I missed, let me know. What you guys think about this video, let me know. All right, guys? So with that, guys, this is Rob, and have a good one.